What is your sense of what a next Trump term would actually look like? You know, do you buy the view that he's become far more competent and therefore far more terrifying? Do you believe that he was plenty competent before? Like, what is your assessment of the level of danger of a next Trump term?
Gosh, you're asking me to predict the future again. I would say that what's important to understand is that Trump, with the exception of maybe some foreign policy stuff, that you never vote for a person, you vote for an apparatus and a party. And it's not like Eric Trump and Donald Trump and Melania are sitting around like poring over policy papers, right? These things are shopped out. They're largely shopped out to the Heritage Foundation, American Enterprise Institute, Foundation for Defense of Democracy. These are shopped out to far-right Republican institutional think tanks. Again, this is why the first thing he did when he got in office was institute a massive corporate tax break. That was a priority of the corporate forces behind the Republican Party. They had to sort of get theirs. And the selection of judges, which is probably the most consequential thing the executive branch does. Like, that is the thing that lasts for generations, whether it be Supreme Court, district judges, whether it be appointments to EPA, NLRB, this sort of liberal state that they plan on gutting. So whether or not Trump has some unique disposition or he's changed or this or that, I think is actually kind of not, doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if it's Mitt Romney. It doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump. It doesn't really matter. There's a party system in place. And they're going to do what they did the first time, which is, you know, gut NLRB, gut APA, gut the FTC. They're going to put in judgeships of, you know, that are already sort of preordained by the Heritage Foundation, by the Federalist Society, by these organizations that operate these kind of para-party organizations. So it's like, I think, you know, that'll be what happens. Trump could die of a Diet Coke-induced heart attack tomorrow, which is not entirely out of the question. And more or less, it would be the same. I think where you sort of get those differences is where there's literally kind of unilateral executive power, which is on foreign policy. And even his foreign policy was pretty boilermake neoconservative, despite his rhetoric. Again, tried to overthrow the government in Venezuela, horrible sanction regimes on Iran, Venezuela, killed the head of, you know, top Iranian general, gave Israel whatever they wanted. So it was kind of boilerplate neoconservative policies. So I think it'll kind of be a normal Republican presidency, but I actually sort of I don't want that to be interpreted as saying that's not bad. I just think it's not that much of a deviation.
Yeah.
The thing that drives liberals crazy is his rhetoric. It's like the sort of optics, the total disposal of any pretense of human rights, right? Which I don't really give a shit about that anyway, because that's all fake. But he's again tweeting at 6:30 a.m. about the menstrual cycle of a Fox News host. These things are not what the liberal and centrist and Republican establishment need or want, right? Now, if that's the price they pay to get lower corporate taxes and to blow up Iranian generals, they'll take it. That's obviously the deal that they made. So I think it's super important to think about the apparatuses of the parties versus the sort of personalities on top.
So what do you make of this? What do you make of this reaction? I agree with everything you said. I think that's spot on. But the argument that he's actually going to be a bigger authoritarian threat this time around for the specific reason that he's going to surround himself with complete loyalists and sycophants in a way where he couldn't the previous time because he didn't really have the capacity or the ability to do that being a first-time president. Like, for example, he wanted to invoke the Insurrection Act and deploy U.S. troops against George Floyd protesters, and you had a general like Mark Milley say, we're just not doing that. Like, that's not going to happen, right? He tried to get Bill Barr to send out letters to the states saying, yes, we've detected fraud in this election, and we're going to seize the voting machines. And Bill Barr said, I'm just not going to do that. I'm just not going to, like, try to flat out steal the election for you. What do you make of the argument that this time around he knows who the hardcore loyalists are and he's going to stack his administration with those loyalists and effectively give himself a green light? Plus the Supreme Court, remember, Adam, too, the Supreme Court also said, hey, he's kind of got immunity for anything that's an official act or even remotely on the edges of an official act.
And that's why J.D. Vance was chosen also.
Right,
is because he said, I would not have certified the election results. I would not have done what Mike Pence did.
There is no... Again, I want to be careful here, as I think people interpret like not saying that these aren't the sort of vectors of danger, with saying there is no danger. I don't think there's a realistic or remotely plausible chance that Trump would overthrow an election. The U.S. military, FBI, DOJ aren't going to like go along with that. There is a deep state in the U.S. for better or for worse. And that doesn't mean, though, that him trying to is not bad. It doesn't mean that January 6th is not bad. It doesn't mean that inciting mobs of violence from your, reactionary foaming mob followers is not bad. All that's very bad. But the threat is not lawfare. It's not like he's going to do a genuine coup. The issue is he incites his followers who take it into their own hands to undertake this vigilante violence in various forms. And again, whether it's sending death threats or threatening to kill the Secretary of State of Georgia or whatever it is. Like all that stuff's a genuine threat that is unique to Trump. That is not something you would get from Mitt Romney. And let's be clear about that. That kind of paralegal or kind of extra legal threats and vigilantism and unleashing, whether it's the Proud Boys or whatever, like all that's very bad and very dangerous. But it's not like the U.S. Army is going to go along with it. I mean, let's be realistic here. Like there is a deep state in this country that again, it's why Trump failed the first time. There's no plausible scenario where he was going to storm the Capitol and overtake it.
What if Mike Pence had said yes, though? What if, because they were trying to twist Mike Pence's arm and to say, I am rejecting these slates of electors, and I will take the alternate electors.
There's no plausible scenario where the U.S. military is going to go along with that.
I know, but what I'm saying is game it out. So Mike Pence says, I'm rejecting the real electors because these alternate slates of electors might be legitimate, might not be. We're going to try to figure this out. And at that point, it either gets thrown to Congress, which was majority Republican, correct? Or it has to go to the Supreme Court. And with the Supreme Court, it's stacked with hard right freaks who literally just gave Trump almost total immunity.
The threat of Trump overturning an election exists, but it exists in a close election. It would look like a Trump versus Gore lawfare thing.
Bush v. Gore, yeah.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Bush v. Gore. Sorry, I was mixing my guys. I'm getting old.
That's political junkie brain.
When he's winning by 80,000 votes, there's no plausible scenario where Trump has the competency or following to meaningfully overturn that election. Again, just because I don't think that is a specific vector of genuine threat doesn't mean I don't think there's 1,000 other genuine vectors of threat. I think sometimes people sort of look at you suspect if you don't have the most maximalist paranoid version of events. But I got to be honest. Like there's just no way that happens. But again, vigilante violence is still bad, and this is why I thought, and I even said it at the time, the day after the election in 2020, when he started talking about the election stalling, and I was like, people are going to die. I said it on Twitter. Lo and behold, somebody died.
Well, part of that,
people died.
Part of that, Adam, is the fact that although, when you talk about like policy outcomes, the thing that matters most is the apparatus as it exists for either party. And we certainly saw that during the first Trump administration, when the major thing is the tax cut that's been sitting on the shelf from the Heritage Foundation and from Paul Ryan, et cetera. But the thing about Trump that is somewhat unique is this extreme cult of personality where, it's hard to, even if Mitt Romney wanted to incite a mob at the Capitol, no one's going to do it, They're going to be like, no. You'd have to pay people to show up as they,
guys in white shirts with short sleeves showing up.
Yeah. Morgan Stanley executives show up very angry.
Yeah. That does create a different
no, and that's what I just said.
Right?
I just said
yeah,
that.
He agrees with that part.
I think his vigilante loyalist is the threat. I think that's true. And again, they were attacking people in Congress. That's not good. That's bad. That's very bad. That erodes the sort of integrity of the system in key ways. And of course, when you have 40-50% of a party that believes that the election's fake, although ironically that ends up backfiring because then they're less likely to vote.
Right.
I think that that's obviously very bad. I believe liberal norms, if you're going to have them, should be maintained. I agree. I'm not trying to be a cooler than that ultra leftist. I just think that the actual threats posed by Trump and Trumpism are largely there. Again, it's like the sort of Haitian, to circle back to our first topic. It's like the Haitian incitement to violence. It's not like I think that Vance or Trump want to hire the military to go kill Haitians. They don't really need to. They can sort of franchise it out to Cletus and his assault rifle, and that's the threat. This kind of hey, wouldn't it be bad if someone shot these immigrants? That kind of stuff. This election is stolen. Someone should do something about it.
Right. It's gonna be fun to DC.
And I think that
wild. Yeah.
To project this kind of competent dictator sort of nature to Trump, I think kind of misidentifies what makes him a threat. and
Well,
the
it's
nature of his
also
threat.
the loyalist thing is also a
Also, he's
problem
incredibly
because
lazy.
they're going to try, like, stacking loyalists everywhere also has the impact of get rid of the EPA, get rid of the Department of Education, destroy the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau again. Like, the movement to destroy the regulatory state is a function of both having loyalists, but also, to your point, just farming all this stuff out to the Heritage Foundation, who wants to do it anyway, right? So there's
I
like
mean, the Heritage Foundation exists to destroy the liberal state. That's
Right.
its entire purpose.
Exactly.
You know, that's why it gets funding by these corporations.
Yeah, that's
and by
part of
these
what's
whack
been
job
funny about the
billionaires.
like Project 2025 stuff is like it is deeply nefarious and dystopian. It's also just like the Republican Party.
it's been the Republicans.
like
they added some new
box
things.
standard Republican
like,
Party stuff.
The new things, which are the things I think Trump actually has a problem with, are like the ban pornography,
Right.
get rid of
The,
no-fault
like, Christian
divorce.
nationalism shit.
Yeah, like that's
Yeah.
the stuff where he's like, this is not good for my electoral chances,
Yeah.
so I'm going to leave that to the side. But he released his own list called Agenda 47, and you read through it, and it is just Project 2025 minus the talk of abortion and other things, right?
Adam,
the social issues.
What do you think?
Which he's always been smart enough to avoid.
Right.
Yeah. What do you
Even though he
think-
appoints judges that are very pro. Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly.
No,
No,
no.
you're right. You're right. All right, guys, that's just a little snippet of our interview with Adam Johnson. Definitely sign up on Substack and check out the entire thing. You don't want to miss it. Remember, you could also sign up for free and get the audio version and get it a day later. Enjoy.